Okay, today we're going to talk about Ielts, some very helpful tips for you to choose whether you should review online or whether you should review with a reviewer. My name's Ronald Sharp. I've been involved in reviewing for a number of years now on and off with Ielts, and I'm hoping that these tips will make a big difference in your band score when you get to the end of deciding when to review and when to do your exam. So the two methods are online reviewing, do it yourself, or go to a review centre. Now I definitely recommend going to a review centre. The review centre's requirements in terms of the cost you're going to spend are small compared to having to do the exam twice. In the Philippines, 8,640 pesos is several months savings for a poor family. The idea is to do Ielts once and pass it once. So this video is to help you know what to do at the process of actually starting to decide how to do reviewing to pass the exam. So I definitely recommend that you do reviewing with a reviewer, but not all reviewers are the same. So how do you choose which reviewer and which reviewer is good and which one's not good? Well, here's a couple of suggestions. If you've got a reviewer that works 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, at the end of 40 hours, goodbye, they've made their money, then probably they're not a good reviewer. You need a reviewer who will fit in with you and your times when you have the ability to go into the review centre and take one or more of the listening, reading, writing or speaking subtests as practice for that day. If you take 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5 to the end of the week, you are going to be brain dead by 1/3 of the day is over, because it's an exam. Each subtest is really an example of the exam, and it's very taxing. You know from doing an exam, when you've done 2 or 3 hours in exam situation, you come out, you're brain dead. The last 2/3 of a day in a 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5 reviewer, as far as I'm concerned, is a waste of time. You cannot take in anything in the last 2/3 of the day. So first, find a reviewer who will review at the pace that you want to review over a number of weeks. And you be the one that decides when you will decide to sign up for your application for your exam. The reason being is I can prove to you when you're ready, but you won't know when you first start. In fact, when I did my first listening test and my first reading test, even though I'm a natural born English speaker, I got a very bad band score. In fact, it freaked me out exactly how hard it was. I thought, how do people in a second language who have to translate from a second language into their first language ever do this? So here's some helpful tips. When you go to a reviewing centre, these are the questions that you ask. Firstly, I review subtests at my own speed over a period of time, and can I decide when I'm ready? If they're saying no, don't review with them. If they're saying yes, they are probably a good reviewer. Still, you need to ask some questions. One of the questions I'd ask you to ask them is, within their training of doing the listening and the reading test, do they get their students to actually do a speed, do they test the speed of how fast you can read? If you don't know how fast you can read, you don't know how much time it's going to take to actually do the reading subtest. Again, with in the writing subtest. In the reading subtest, how many words can you read in a minute? Ask them, do they do reading speed test, a speed test for reading? And when it comes to the listening subtest, you will find that this listening subtest starts off very slowly. We'll go through the subtests a little bit later on in this video to give you an idea of what goes on and how it goes on and what they're actually expecting from you. So the biggest single help I can give you to make a difference in your band score is to tell you the following, and I've told this to many students. The way I'll do it is I'll tell you a story. I had a sister and a cousin. The sister was very fluent in English and was going to fly through because she was bringing good English to her reviewing. The cousin was very poor in speaking, and they both wanted to go to Australia and needed a 7 band score, and I knew the cousin wasn't going to make it. Of course, I could not say, I'm not entitled to give a band score in speaking, and never have attempted to do so. But I do know from experience which students, when they come for reviewing, have got no chance. They are coming before they're ready. So here is the single biggest tip, because the biggest fear in doing IELTS is the speaking subtest. And that is, when you know you're going to start doing IELTS in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, even a year out, decide to become 100% English speaker. Now, if your grandmother can't speak English, it would be rude to cut her out. So I'm not saying go to the stage of being extreme, but when at all possible, when you're with your friends at the shopping centre, don't speak in your native tongue, speak in English. And I'll say, oh, why don't you speak in our language? You say, I need to practice. It's the same as a pianist learning the piano. The only way to get better is practice. And if you decide to become 100% English speaker, it will change your fluency. Now, your grammar is set. The environment that you live in determines your grammar. You can't change your grammar by, I will change my grammar by, I will join the White Knuckle Club and my grammar's going to be better next week after a week of reviewing. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. When you move from the country of your birth to an overseas country, the grammar of that environment will change your grammar. It's the environment that you're in that sets your grammar, because you're hearing constant wrong grammar, you speak wrong grammar, and you do not know. Now, technically somebody can tell you where you're going wrong, but it won't change it. So don't worry about that, because in the speaking subtest, the examiners are not looking for whether you're word perfect in grammar. They're wanting to see whether you can communicate at an IELTS band score, which you need, outside. And grammar is only a part of the exercise, so don't freak out about your grammar. But you are going to bring to your IELTS the grammar that you have already got when you arrive at your reviewing centre. So let's start going through the subtests one at a time for some helpful hints. We'll start with the listening subtest first. Now, when you've never done one, as I said before, it's really hard, and you think, I'll never be able to do this at the beginning. When you start reviewing, take no notice of the first few listening subtest trials. They are not going to be how it's going to be once you learn how it works. And you will learn it in your reviewing that the subtest of listening starts slowly and it builds towards the end. At the beginning, they give you enough free answers to get to band score 4, where they give you the answers. So you've only got to climb from band score 4 to the band score you need. You're halfway there by them giving you the answers. For at the beginning, they might say, what was the telephone number? And then the person will repeat what the telephone number is. Whenever you hear a repeat at the beginning, that is the answer. When the lady is being reviewed by the policeman and she says, the policeman said, was there any marks, distinguishing marks on the robber? He had a scar on his chin. The policeman says again, oh, that's very interesting, ma'am. He had a scar on his chin. When you hear it twice, that's the answer. So you learn sequentially at the beginning what the answers are, and the first few answers in the listening subtest are given to you. It's easy. You've only got to climb from about band 4, 4.5, maybe 5 to where you want to go. Now at the end, in the last part, because it's broken up into 4 parts, you're probably getting one answer every 3 sentences. So it's broken into 10, 10, 10, 10. When it gets to the last section, it's very quick and the answers are coming very fast. So if you know the pacing speeds and you know what you're listening for as you practice it, you'll find it's not so hard at all. Now, what I want you to do when you do your reviewing is scrap the first numbers from your first listening test. Take no notice of them, they're not reality. And then when you do a subtest of listening, always write down what your band score was. So over the process of 6 to 8 weeks or whatever time you choose to do your reviewing, you will get an average. Like I say, scrap the first 3 or 4, maybe scrap the very, very high one because it was just a good day or an easy subject or whatever, and then average all the rest out. Take the very high ones out, take the very low ones out, average the middle ones, and when the band score is higher than you need for your exam, you know you can go to the exam and you know you can pass listening. Because Ielts is really a confidence trick. You can do it already. You can speak quite well in English. If you didn't, you wouldn't have been able to do your university exam in English. When you come to the reading subtest, it's not a read the text and then answer the questions. It's actually a go and hunt and find the answer contest, or game if you like. And your reviewers will teach you how to skim and scan, but you must use the time from the moment they allow you to open your paperwork. You can start reading. It's the only exam where you're allowed to cheat. In fact, it's not cheating. When the paper is open, you can start reading. And the name of the reading subtest is to find the answer. It's a find the answer. So you read and read and read and read the questions, and then just go and find the answer to the question. It's really a game. At the beginning it's hard. Again, you'll be able to do the averages. Throw away the first ones, they don't matter. Throw away maybe the very, very, very top one on a good day. Average the rest, and when you're past the level consistently in your reading subtest and reviewing, you know you're ready. So now you can go off to your exam and say, listening's in the bag, reading's in the bag, now writing subtest. This is a question you should ask when you go and see which reviewer you should use. Ask them, how do you give feedback on the writing subtest? If you're doing general, doesn't matter. All you've got to do is write a letter. It's very easy to write a letter. In fact, if you're doing general, just go off and do your exam and have fun. It's easy for general. But if you're doing academic, you need to give the monkey what the monkey wants. And the name of the game, if you're taught with a good reviewer, is to stay on task. Generally, a person that does badly in writing has done badly in writing, not because they can't write, they didn't use planning time. Now, I have got one student who got a 9 band score in writing. He's the only one I've ever had. And in time on this site, we're going to put his reviewing of the writing band score subtest. And he teaches, like all reviewers should, for you to write down as many words as you can on any subject you like on a piece of paper in 1 minute. When you know how fast you can write, you can then determine how many minutes it's going to take you to do part 1 and part 2 of your writing subtest. And then your reviewer should be experienced enough to be able to guide you as to where you can improve and how you can improve in your writing subtest. So now we come on to the speaking subtest. This is the one that frightens everybody. The reason it frightens everybody is, unless you've done a mock exam, that's the next question you should ask your reviewer. Do you do mock exams in the speaking subtest before I go and do my exam? If they say no, don't review with them, because you should go into your exam knowing every section of what's going to happen in the exam, so there's no all of a sudden surprises. There should be no surprises on your exam. You should know exactly sequentially what's going to happen. You should know that you're going to transfer your listening subtest in time given, but on reading subtest you have to put them on the paper as you go. And if you get them out of sequence, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, fail. 8,640 pesos if you're in the Philippines to do it again. So the speaking subtest is what freaks most students out, but it is the easiest subtest. It really is, and the reason it's easy is they give you what to talk about. You don't have to think about what to talk about. They ask you about things in part 1, like where do you come from? What's your name? Where have you studied? Describe your house. Tell me what sort of sports you like. Anybody can talk like that. Now, I agree, speaking in front of a natural born speaker in an exam environment makes you nervous. How do you deal with that? As you're coming up the row of seats, knowing that you're about to go into the room for your 11 to 14 minutes of test, you get more and more nervous. Deep breathing. And then you think on your head, I can do this. I can do this. I've done this in reviewing. I can do this. I've spoken in grade school. I've spoken in high school. And I can speak. And I'm going in there to show this reviewer who's getting paid very well with my money what I can do. So all of part 1 is really to get you settled down, and at part 2, when they give you the question which says, what clothing and jewelry do you wear? And then it says at work and at home and when you go out. Now that question, that second part question, must be left with you. And if it's not left with you, the tape recording that's on the table is your best friend. And you should challenge the reviewer. You are not allowed to take away that from me, because that is my guide, what to talk about. They give you a minute to prepare, and some people write that down very rapidly by what we call mind mapping. But the reviewer under the Ielts system is not allowed to take the part 2 question away from you when you've got 2 minutes to speak. So sequentially you start at the beginning. And the question is, what clothing and jewelry? Now notice it said, what clothing and jewelry? Read the question correctly. Because if you answered like one girl did and only talked about what jewelry she wore, she really answered the question that she wore no clothing, which was quite humorous. So you must give the monkey what the monkey wants in the speaking subtest. So you start at the top and you sequentially talk about, don't read back the question. They don't want you to be talking the question. They want you immediately to start talking about what clothing and jewelry you wear. And then you look at the second section and follow sequentially down the card. At home, I don't really wear that much jewelry. If you're a girl, I don't wear any jewelry at all. Maybe I could say a ring or a watch. But when I go to work, I wear a little bit more. And of course, when I go out to the restaurant, I drip with jewelry if you're a girl. If you're a guy and you're asked that question, probably you could just say to the examiner, look, I'm going to answer the question from the point of view of I'm a girl. Because it's not a test of telling the truth, it's actually a testing of actually how well you speak. Now the good news is they are not picking every fault. And if the question is asked, somewhere along the way, some questions asked, so tell me a little bit about your house, and you get, you're locked up, all right? The best thing is to say, I think that's all I've got to say about that, and they'll give you another question, and then you can start and get going again. Because the examiner is not looking for the worst, what he's looking for is the best. That's why if you do a lockup, or you make some bad grammar, or you and you are, because you're translating time, none of this matters. What they're trying to do is find out which little section in your speech is the best bit of speech. That's the bit they mark you on. So the idea is to settle yourself down in part 1, sequentially go through part 2 where they tell you what to speak. Clothes and jewelry, at home, at work, when I go out. Cover all 4 sections in just normal speaking. It's in the bag, part 2. Now part 3 is where they ask you to pick or choose which way you want to back. Do you want a hydroelectric power station in your town or a nuclear powered station in your town? And you have to choose one or the other. Don't take half your answer for this and half your answer for that. If it says choose which you prefer, then back for what you prefer. You can say, on the other hand, these are the reasons I don't like the other power generation system, but stay on task. The question was choose, then choose. So they become a little bit more, it's a test to see if you actually understand the question. And if you don't understand the question, there's only one way to get the reviewer, examiner to talk to you, and that's say, could you please rephrase the question, sir or ma'am? And they will always do so. They are actually trying to help you. They're not trying to hinder you. Don't take any notice whether you've got a serious reviewer or a happy-go-lucky reviewer. It makes no difference. The principles that they are instructed in, and they are reviewed every 3 months, it is, to keep them on exactly the right band score for speaking subtest. So it doesn't matter whether you've got a native or a foreign reviewer, examiner, sorry, it makes no difference whatsoever. So I think we will leave that now until on the site we put a video especially for each subtest. But I hope this video helps you choose which reviewer to go to, what questions to ask, and if you get the right viewer, review properly, get those averages, you should go into your exam knowing that it's a done deal. When you feel like that, go into the exam, sleep well the night before, don't go out and party the night before, breathe deeply to settle your nerves down, it is an exam, and then just do it. You can do it. It's just a matter of choosing. Thank you.